heard the term hosting and domain. I'm sure you have heard that, and this is what I need to address in this lesson. You can understand exactly what it means and how you can relate it to your process of your website with WordPress, and you can avoid all the confusion that you may have. So in order for me to explain in a way that you understand, especially to the people that are just getting started, is I'm going to explain in a picture format. So the picture that you're looking at right now is a picture of land, and as you can see, this land is pretty cool, pretty nice. And would you love to stay there? I guess you may say, yeah, well, I'd love to stay there and I need a couple of neighbors, and I maybe want to stay alone. So if you're staying alone, it simply means you have to buy this whole place. But if you need a couple of neighbors, you just have to, buy a small piece of land and you can build your house there. And yeah, so the first thing that you do is to check the land, like the availability, the cost, and things like that. Okay. And then the next thing that you do now is to say, wow, I've actually looked at this land and the piece of land that I need is located here. It's more like you're pinpointing where you are saying, this is where I need my land to be. Or if you want this entire place, which you may not use anyway, you can just claim it, but you just have to have a good budget for that. But if you're going to take a small place, that is going to be something that fits on your budget. And then the next thing that you do is when you pin out a point, you get to now build the house. Okay, this is the house that you have actually built, and guess what? There's still plenty of space and other neighbors can actually fit in. So you can agree with me that in this image that you're looking at right now, we have three things. And the three things that we are looking at is, number one, the address, which is the pinpointing that we have done, and number two, which is the land that we have selected on, and then number three, we can see the house. So how does this relate to your learning of website creation? So I want you to think about these three things when you building your website, especially for those that are getting started. Just think of those three things. So number one, it costs money to buy the land. Okay, so depending on the size of the land that you want, you can pay according to what you can afford. And then again, it costs money for you to pinpoint an address, to claim an address, to say you can find me at number XYZ Robert Street. That's where you can find me. And then again, it does cost money again to build a house and paint it and then put property inside, move it out, and anything in between. And sometimes you may want to destroy your house and then build again. So basically, that's the concept that we have in website creation. So let us again go to the next slide and put this in relation to the three things that we've just mentioned, which is the address, the land, and the house. Okay, so the first thing that we need to talk about is the address. And when it comes to building websites, the address is called the domain name. Okay, this is where you hear the word domain name. The domain name is like the address, and it has got www dot your website name, or just say your website name.com. Okay, your website name.com. So basically, that's your address where people can find you. If they type in on Google, or they type in on search engine, or they can click a link, they have to be taken to that address. Okay, so other people can have .org, .net, so, and other people can have domains that are located in certain countries and within certain regions, but it's ideal again to choose a domain name that resonates with your brand. Okay, so an extension is actually key. So you are going to learn about extensions when you do more research. So a very good example, ORG stands for, maybe if you're running an organization, you can just put ORG as an extension. If you are looking to work with international clients, you can use .com. And if you're looking to work with local clients so that you can get your brand recognized as a local, as a country brand, you can actually use an extension for that country. A very good example, if you see a website with www.co.uk, you're going to realize that this company may be probably located in UK, and another one maybe if you see a company that is .co.za, that is South Africa. So basically that's basically how it works, and you don't have to think through about this, at least at this stage, as you are just getting started. So the number 2 thing that we had on our list of example was land. So when you think of land as hosting. Hosting now is where your website is actually sitting on. Okay, hosting is where your website is actually sitting on, and in our language of expertise when creating websites, this is called a server. It's referred to as a server, and that's the land aspect. Okay, once you have the address, you need to get what is known as hosting. And then number 3, to our example that we just gave, we have the house actually, and then the house is the website where you are actually building to showcase whatever you can showcase. So these things play a very big role in terms of website creation, and I want to emphasize a lot that this address is actually a paid service. You don't get it for free. Okay, you don't get it for free. It's actually a paid service, and again, the land that you're going to buy again is a paid service. Okay, it's a paid. Again, if you want to build your website, you can do what is known as a paid service as well. So when you're looking at paid services, we're saying you want to, let me just explain in detail. So when it comes to a domain name, is what is known as domain sellers. They sell these addresses. You just go on the internet, you type in, I'm going to show you in the upcoming lessons, you type in your domain to see if it's that address is available, just like how you can go to land and then you're trying to find out if someone has claimed that piece of land or that address already. So that's how you search. Are going to do that. Ideally, most companies, they charge you on a yearly basis, and the domain costs between maybe $10 to about even $20, especially if you're just getting started. Some other domains, they can even cost like a huge amount of money because of the name that it has. Okay, so we're going to learn about that again in the near future. When it comes to hosting again is paid yearly. Okay, hosting again is paid yearly. Some of the companies, they do charge hosting and domain names on a month-to-month basis, but most companies, they do a yearly fee. What it simply means, if you don't pay your yearly fees, this is going to be a disaster for your website. When I work with clients, actually, in most cases, I find it very difficult to explain to them that your website is paid on a yearly basis. You know, they kind of, what is the money for? But in order for the server to keep running, it has to have a bit of injection that needs to go into it. So I hope this explains that you need to pay on a yearly basis. And then when it comes to the house, which is the website, again, a website is paid. So let me explain how a website is paid. However, a website, depending on the method that you're going to use, a website can be paid once off. Okay, a website can be paid once off to be built. This is when you're just like building a house and then you pay the builders to say, can you build for me? But you can actually learn how to create a website so that you don't have to hire a web designer to design, or a web programmer to design a website for you, which is what you are doing. Again, there is also need for maintenance. Okay, there's also need for maintenance, just like how you build a house and then you're maintaining the house, like when you're doing renovations, when you're doing upgrades, when you're taking out sofas, buying new sofas, and anything in between, you're repainting and things like that. There's also maintenance. However, in this day and age, there's some websites which are called static websites. Probably these are websites that you just create once and then you have them on the website, online, and then once they sit online, which is your land, your hosting, you don't have to do any kind of maintenance at all. All you have to do is to continue paying your yearly fee, and you continue paying your yearly fee again for the domain and for the hosting. So this is exactly how I'd explain website hosting and domain to a beginner. So moving forward, now I need to go ahead and break down choosing a domain name. So we spoke about earlier on the extensions and things like that, which I'm going to repeat again. So the first thing that you need to put in mind is relevance. Relevance is basically what your domain is all about. Okay, a very good example, if you are selling, let's say, pet products, okay, for pets and dogs and things like that, you can have your website as petsandcats.com. okay, so when someone reads that website, they can actually relate to your brand to say, okay, if it's pets and cats, what is it all about? Probably it's dog food or it's dog training and things like that. So you can actually have relevance on your domain. The other two things that you need to consider when choosing a domain is simplicity. Remember, we said petandcats.com. If I give someone my website name, they should be able to remember it. It has to be simple. Okay, they don't have to, it just doesn't have to be complicated in a way of pronunciation. A very good example, when I want to find a domain name that is simple to pronounce or to remember, I call a friend and then I say to a friend, hey, I'm building a website and I want to call it Jackson John, can you spell it for me? Someone is going to say, okay, Jackson John, and then they spell it right. So your website doesn't have to be really complex. It has to be, your website name has to be really simple and easy to remember. And then when talking of extension, we spoke of extension as .com and .net, .org, .co.uk. I think as you are getting started with learning, just focus on the .com, and then you can change on a later stage your website name. You don't have to think through a lot, especially at this stage if you're just getting started. So moving forward, selecting your hosting provider. So remember, I said in the earlier time of this lesson is that I spoke about the idea of you buying land, and you can buy a bigger space of land or you can buy a small piece of land where you can share with others. So that leads us to what is known as shared hosting. Now, shared hosting is whereby there is a company that has bought a big piece of land, which is a big server that can accommodate a lot of websites. Okay, so you just have to go and buy a small space on a server where they can accommodate your website. And there is what is called VPS hosting, which is a little bit more advanced, and this is dedicated hosting whereby you have your own space. This is just more like buying your own big piece of land and you can do anything that you want. And there is also what is known as managed WordPress hosting. So these are companies out there that have specifically built hosting packages that are meant for WordPress. So now, looking at these three options, which one is the best if you are just getting started? You may have guessed you need to start off with shared hosting. The reason why you need to start off with shared hosting is because, number one, it's cheap. It's quite affordable, especially if you're getting started. You're going to learn about these as you go forward, and if you feel like you need to upgrade at any given time, you can do so. So I recommend any of my students that are just getting started focus on the shared hosting, which we're going to be talking about later. Okay, your task, I know I have covered quite a lot in this lesson. What I want you to do now is I want you to go ahead in our social group, explain, just do a reflection of this lesson. You just say, what I've learned about domain and hosting is XYZ, I'm on this lesson. So that's what you want to do. Make sure you do that so that you can, I always say, to teach is to learn twice. So go ahead and try and teach someone on our social group and say, I've learned about domain and hosting and that you can buy land. Just anyhow you can explain it. With that said, can't wait to see you in the next lesson, and bye.